Everybody, Invisiblekatana here. Today we are kicking off a month of Let's Discuss episodes, specifically celebrating my favorite franchise on Earth and the constantly referenced franchise throughout this entire series, Resident Evil. At the end of this month, we will be having, specifically on February 27th, Resident Evil 9, celebrating the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil. So this first episode, of course, kicking things off with a month of Resident Evil celebrations, is simply talking Resident Evil. So let's discuss Resident Evil. 30 years strong. Who knows if it'll go for another 30. I don't know if they're gonna finally, we're gonna get to another generation of characters. It's kind of that Street Fighter thing. Street Fighter's been out for a super long time, and I've always wondered, like, okay, they'll make, you get alpha, you get a bunch of alpha games, so we can make a lot of prequels and keep the same characters, but at some point, you start moving along, and they did it with 5. Not that anyone liked that game, but they also did it with 6, and they continue moving forward. So we're moving forward. 30 years in, we're officially going back to Raccoon City, and I cannot wait for this game to come out. I'm super excited. We of course, we have Leon. We have Grace Ashcroft, daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, and Leon S. Kennedy as our, so far, the only 2 characters. Who knows, if something else is gonna end up happening. I made a video for anyone that wants to check it out. I already did a video on what unlockables we want from RE9. Of course, one of the things I mentioned was, having a mercenaries mode. So maybe if we actually get that, and also with it being the 30th anniversary, if we also get more characters in this game than just Leon, and of course Alyssa counts as a returning character, but Leon, Alyssa, and then Grace, if we get somebody else, there's rumors, people are like, I don't know, I don't think that was Hunnigan, maybe that was Sherry. So maybe we'll get some extra characters, and that'll be a fun thing to do for mercenaries mode. Maybe they'll even bring back characters just to bring them back. Jill might not even show up in this game, but they'll be like, fine, here's Jill, which would be great. I think we're old that. But we're gonna talk all things Resident Evil at this point, and we'll start from the very beginning. Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1. So for me, that is my introduction to the entire franchise that I love. Playing it as a kid, and I've referenced this quite a few times, but my original history with Resident Evil is playing it on the PlayStation as a kid. I have the director's cut. Fortunately, I still have the game itself. And playing it as a kid, way too young. I swear I think I was 5 years old. I'm pretty sure I was 5 years old playing Resident Evil 1. And it scared me like it was supposed to. But I loved it. I had a really fun time with it. I would go through the game, play through the puzzles. I got stuck on the puzzles, and this is a story I referenced in another episode as well. But Resident Evil was the game that made me realize that I really want to do things on my own, because when I got stuck on a puzzle, I just used my cousin's save file, and I just skipped a bunch of the game, and then technically I beat it because he was in like the little facility portion, and it was like, oh yeah, it was cool, I beat it, but I didn't really beat it. Like, I skipped, who knows what I skipped, honestly, because I skipped a giant chunk just to get to the end of the game because I was stuck on a puzzle. It was the clock puzzle. It killed me as a child. I could not comprehend the swords. I didn't get that as a kid. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know. So that one killed me a lot. Like, I was so confused. I think I was confused in that multiple times, and it would always take me a minute to remember what the actual answer was. But that is my original experience with the very first Resident Evil game. And then over time, I got used to it. I figured it out. I literally grew up because of that game, and it, gave me, I think it gave me an appreciation for puzzles as well. Like, going through that game, it wasn't just what made me love horror, but it's it gives me an appreciation for, puzzle games. I don't really get them a ton, but I think I have a greater appreciation for them and solving problems because of Resident Evil and being like, okay, how do I do this? And also, if we're being honest, the survival horror aspect of that game is a puzzle within itself. Like, you have these sets of enemies, and of course, as a kid, I was super dumb, so there are things that you go through. It's this game feels like it's taken me 100 million years. I was 6 years old playing Resident Evil. It took me a million years to beat that game. So every time I played it, I was like, I don't really remember. Like every single time I started that game over, I was like, I kind of remember this, but not 100%. So that's kind of how that game went for me. It was it took a minute to just actually remember hours upon hours worth of gameplay. Of course, I was also a kid, so I wasn't really speed running things. I wasn't getting amazing times and doing less saves and stuff like that. I was just kind of slow rolling it every single time I played the game, and it that continued on with Resident Evil 2. Of course, having the director's cut, I had the RE2 demo, so I got to play with Leon a million times over, and I would play it over and over and over again until eventually getting that game. Another story that I've definitely shared on some episode throughout this series is having the experience of the Resident Evil 2 demo and then finally getting the game and things being different from the demo. And you can look this up online, it's on YouTube. You can find the original RE2 demo, and you can actually see the differences from the demo version of the game to when they actually completed it. And it's really cool. It's definitely something to look at, and it's something that I always like to reference, just to be like, hey, it's a part of our history as far as being Resident Evil fans. And it's definitely something, especially for newer fans who wouldn't have no clue about this. It's like, okay, like I'm sure anyone who's new has watched a million retrospectives. Heck, I still watch retrospectives. Someone new gets into the franchise and they're like, I haven't played before. And I'm like, let me see what you think. So, it's Resident Evil. I'm gonna watch 100 million effing retrospectives a day. But in the RE2 demo, there are moments like when you go through the back alley, the van isn't there, so you don't actually go through the basketball court. You just run, from the gun shop straight down the alleyway, and you just go straight to the bus. And then they just add that in. So when you play the actual game, obviously you're blocked off. But if you take that out, you'll run straight to the bus. You can't see that in the main game either because of the camera angle, so you don't know that there's an alleyway down there, but it's still there, in the main game. So I always thought that was super cool. And then the main thing was Ada is in the demo because they put her cutscene at the end of the demo inside of the STARS office. So of course, as a child, my brain was broken when I finally played that game, and I'm like, I'm gonna see this woman's face, because it always would like fade out before you could even see who it was. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to figure it out. Like, okay, I walked a little further, and then I walked straight to the door, and then Claire comes in, and I was like, this is not what happened in this is a different woman. What is going on? That was not Claire in the demo. So that was something that really changed my life. And I don't think even as a kid, I don't think I realized that it was Ada, like it was the exact same cutscene by the time I got to Ada. Once again, dumb kid, so I'd forget stuff that was on my mind forever. But I'm sure I realized like, oh, that's the woman, but I don't think I realized like this is the exact cutscene. But I always thought that was cool, and one of my favorite things about that is with them putting Ada in the STARS office, you get a completely unique angle that does not exist in the main campaign, because it's the same camera pan, so it pans up from her feet all the way to her face. That's a camera angle that you will not ever see in the main game within the STARS office, because that cutscene doesn't exist there. So you get a really unique angle. Once again, one of those super minute things that's just like, this is really, really cool. So check that out if you're interested, just to see something that's, a slight alteration of a classic game. But loved RE2. I would go back and forth. I think once RE2 came out, I don't remember, of course, this is one of those random things where it's like, man, I wish I could, you just remember everything. And I'd be able to tell you like how many times did I really go back to RE1 after RE2 came out. I'm not sure, but I'm sure at some point I was still going back and forth between the two games. But RE2 was amazing. Of course, if we're going characters, by the way, when it comes to RE1, Jill is my favorite character. She's my number one lady when it comes to Resident Evil. Jill is my favorite character. Number 2 character is Claire from RE2. Number 3 is actually Chris, and then 4 might actually be Wesker. Probably. I think 4 might be Wesker, because it's Wesker, he does some crazy stuff. And I'm not sure who the 5th is. I always had like my top 3, and after that I was like, I don't really care. I have characters I definitely like. I can tell you guys also another fun fact about RE1. I had a huge crush on Rebecca when I was a kid, but it was specifically because of the live action actress. I had a crush on her. I was like, she's really pretty. So I always remember that from being a kid. It was like Rebecca Chambers, and I was just like, I have a crush on her. So that's like, I think technically my first gaming crush was also Resident Evil, and it was Rebecca Chambers, but also it was technically just because the live action actress I had a crush on. So another little random fun fact about me in Resident Evil. My first crush was Rebecca Chambers. First gaming crush, Rebecca Chambers. But like I said, went through, played 1, had a great time with it. Went through RE2, had a great time with it. Never realized that there were unlockables in the second game. Once again, I was a very young child. I didn't know any of that stuff about speed runs and you do it this many saves or under this amount of time. I never, ever knew that. I didn't find that out until very recent. Like within the last couple of years, I found that out, that RE2 even had unlockables. I thought it was just like I thought it was Force Survivor, Hunk, and then like Extreme Battle Mode. I thought that was it. I thought those were the unlockables of the game. And I was like, oh, I guess this one doesn't have unlockables. Like the first one only had like, in my head, the first one only had costumes anyway. Once again, never beaten that game in like 3 hours or 5 hours. So in my head, I'm like, okay, well you beat it, you get the costumes, and then that's about it. And then arrange mode, you get like those other alternate costumes where Jill has like the yellow costume on that I always thought looked super weird as a kid. And then that was about it. Then I play RE2 and it's like, oh, okay, you get arrange mode, and that gives you the infinite submachine gun. So whenever I played that game and I just wanted to do like a fun run, it was arrange mode, and I would just get my submachine gun and I just light everybody up. And that was how I played the game. I'd play through it a million times over, and then it's like, all right, I just want this one to be silly. And then I'll just do a range mode. Like, honestly, I couldn't tell you how many times I played through RE2 as a kid, and it's the same as the first game. Probably more so because of a range mode actually having that element of like, here's the unlimited submachine gun. So I could have genuine just full fun run playthroughs where it's like, hey, I'm almost untouchable at this point. I can just light everybody up, there's no problem. So I love doing that with RE2 because once again, I didn't realize there were unlockables. I had no idea there was, infinite this, that, and the other. And one thing that really caught me off guard when I discovered that there were unlockables in 2 is that the Gatling gun that I've always attached to Resident Evil 3 because it was in Mercenaries. That's how I got it. Of course, Mercenaries mode was a much easier way to get all your weapons and stuff. But that was where I attached it. Like, I attached the Gatling gun to RE3 because I had no idea it was an unlockable in RE2. And so when I found that out, I was like, holy crap. It was in the second game the whole time, and I just never knew that. I never knew that. I always attached it to 3, and I just thought 2 had like those couple of unlockables, like I said, extra battle modes, and then that was really it. And then I discovered the costumes later on where it's like, hey, if you skip picking up any items, you can kill Brad and get the key off of him, and you get the extra costumes in the locker. And I always thought that was super cool. I will say, man, it hurt my soul that they did not remake Claire's costume. Well, she only had one because she got a costume and a gun, and then Leon got the 2 costumes. But I was like, man, I loved that alternate costume she had where it's just the denim with the flames. I was a sucker for that when I found out that exists. I was like, this is such a cool costume. I love it. Gives me some real Jin Kazama vibes from Tekken 3. Love that costume. I love that in blue specifically. I would always choose that alternate costume for him in Tekken 3. The blue flames, that was the junk. But wish we had that in the remake so bad. I know you can do mods. At some point, I will get all my RE games on Steam, but I typically get them on PlayStation. But I knew about the costumes, and then, like I said, very recently in my life, I figured out that there are unlockables. But loved RE2. Like I said, Claire is definitely my favorite when it comes to the characters. Always liked her outfit. I always thought she was just cool. I just liked her costume more. So I think that was really it back in the day. It was like, it was kind of just like who looks like who. And also it's easier, it's like, hey, admittedly, I'm gonna have a crush on the ladies. I'm sure I had one on Claire as well. But it was like, hey, there you go. So I just like the costumes better. Always thought she was in a onesie as a kid because of the PlayStation 1 graphics. I had no idea it was a vest with the pants. Because, I mean, honestly, you can look at actual artwork. It was basically pink. Like, I know we were like, hey, it was a red vest and everything, but I'm like, there's some artwork that you can look at and it's like, they straight up gave her like a pink vest and some pink effing pants. And then she had like the black, I guess they would be Spanx underneath or whatever you call it. I don't really know. But as a kid, I always thought it was just a onesie. I was like, oh, I just assumed it was, like, I don't think I even knew the term romper as a kid. I just called it a onesie. And that's just what I thought it was as a kid. I thought it was like that, and it just zipped all the way up, and it was just like she zipped it as a vest or something. I don't know. That was just how it looked, so that's what I thought in my head. But I always liked Claire, and I had no issues with Leon, but I always liked Claire a little bit more. And just going through the game, it was always really fun, repeating it over and over. Like I said, going through a range mode and having fun with that. And then eventually, Resident Evil 3 came out. And I mentioned this in the Christmas episode. I got Resident Evil 3 during Christmas, and that came out the same year as Dino Crisis. So I got both those and a million other games. I got a giant stack of games. Don't remember any of them, but Resident Evil 3 and Dino Crisis. And I always loved the fact that they both had the demo for each other. And I was like, oh, that's kind of funny. I always thought that was cool. And I think I got Crash Bandicoot Warped. Also a great game. Resident Evil 3 is my favorite Resident Evil. I did one of these Let's Discuss videos where I did like a whole episode on how disappointing the RE3 remake was. And that was specifically because 3 is my favorite Resident Evil game. I love that game. I played it a million times over. Unfortunately, as a kid, I only beat it on easy mode because it was a little tough, starting with the handgun, it was a lot more intense compared to RE1 and RE2. So it was a little tough for me as a kid, even having experienced 1 and 2. It was just like, dang, this is a little rough for me. So I played through it maybe like 2 or so times on easy mode, probably more than that because I would play Mercenaries mode and I got like all the unlockable weapons and everything, and I fell in love with the Gatling gun. That's how I literally discovered what that even is. And I was like, this is so cool. It's not the most practical because you have to like stand still and then it has to like churn before it starts shooting. It doesn't always work with Nemesis. It works on everybody else, but Nemesis and dogs are probably like the 2 things where it's like you got to be a little careful because you gotta let that bad boy charge up a little bit. So sometimes he'd be like, I'm about to shoot you, and then he socks you straight in the effing face. But love that game. played the crap out of it, love the costumes, and you get your RE1 costume, and then you get the Dino Crisis costume. Those are the two you can unlock on easy mode, and then you get the other 3 costumes as you beat it on hard mode, then based on your grade as well. And so I played the game a million times over, played through Mercenaries mode, did the different choices, learned a lot about Resident Evil because that, I think, is actually the first game I ever had a strategy guide for. So another random fun fact of history that never really gets talked about when it comes to Resident Evil. And I think a lot of people don't actually know this, but it being a Capcom franchise, Nemesis is actually based on Sagat from Street Fighter. And you can actually look up art of Nemesis and Sagat together, or just Google it and look up like Sagat art and Nemesis art, and you'll see that some of the Nemesis poses, like the very iconic one of him looking, basically we'll say at the camera, but looking at the camera while he's holding Brad, is literally based on a Sagat art piece, and there's the other ones as well. So Nemesis, Sagat is like the basis for Nemesis as a character, like his structure and his build as this menacing villain is based off of Sagat, who was like the first bad guy of Street Fighter, even though it's always seen as Bison, but Sagat was like the dude. He was the first guy for like a game, like for one game, I'm pretty sure. But I always thought that was cool when I figured that out. Another incredibly ridiculous fun fact, and we all talk about it, we know the puzzle. The water puzzle at the end of Resident Evil 3 is so insane, and I'll never forget this. I'm going through it, I'm like, I can't figure this out. As a kid, I was like, what the F? I'll hit the strategy guide up. And I don't normally do, even when I was a kid, I wasn't really doing it to like figure out how to beat the game and stuff. That was the one time where I was like, I actually need to know, like, how do I do this? The puzzle's so ridiculous that they just tell you how to do the puzzle. And they give you one example on the screen, and that was it. And I was like, this literally doesn't help me. Like they showed me like one version of the answer, and then they just explained how to do the puzzle. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I feel like if I went back to it now, it wouldn't be that difficult. It was just that was the first time I think, admittedly, I think it's so infamous because much like the clock puzzle in RE1, where it was like, hey, you have to look at the painting and figure out the times for the clock. It was something that was so abstract, where it's like, I don't understand moving 3 layers at one time to match up 3 different things, but you have to like hit them all together and line them up and figure out where they drop. That was the first time I'd ever done a puzzle like that. And I think that's the case for most people that see that puzzle as like the devil itself. So I think that's where that comes from. I think if I played it today, it's been 100 million years since I played RE3. I haven't played it since the PS3, at least not all the way through. I got it back on PS5 since they did that, which I thought was amazing, because sadly my PS3 is destroyed. So, at some point I'll be doing that. You'll probably be, maybe that'll be the footage for this video, because this one I'm recording like way in advance. Maybe that'll be the footage for today. So RE3, possibly, I don't really know yet. But going through it was absolutely insane. And as a kid, it was nuts. Eventually, of course, beat the game a couple times. You get used to it, you start to do it. Never beat the game on hard mode because the game kind of just disappeared. I don't know what happened to my RE3. Running theory is my cousin stole it, and that's mostly because they stole my RE1 game, or at least the disc, and then one day I happened to be at their house and I saw the game. So I got my disc back, and that's the only reason I still have RE1. If I didn't just happen to go over there and see it one day, I would not have my Resident Evil 1 anymore. So, happens, family, right? So the running theory, once again, not guaranteed, not for certain, but pretty high likelihood. So sadly, I lost my favorite Resident Evil game, and I never got to play it as a kid on hard mode. I never actually got to do it. But when it came back to PS3, I bought that. I bought RE2. I still have my RE2 as well. I just don't have the case. I have the disc though. But bought RE2 and RE3 on PS3. Finally got to play through hard mode. Had a blast with that, and actually like playing, what I consider like the true experience for RE3. Played through it all. Finally got all those costumes. Had a really good time with the game. Got the extra weapon parts and all that. So, fighting Nemesis and doing all the things I never really had the chance to do because, played a million times on easy. Finally got through and did all that. And I even did a knife run in Mercenaries mode, which I could never do. I could never do it as a kid, and I was always like, that's the challenge I'm gonna do. And I did it, and then I got $41. I was like, I don't know, I made it up in my head. I just assumed that they would give you extra money if you did the hard one. And it was like, no, you got $41. And I was like, oh, I just made that up. For like a decade and a half, I was like, well, they'll give me extra money if I use the knife version. That's like a modern gaming thing. Like if you do the harder thing, you get like a better score multiplier. None of that existed on PlayStation 1. It was like, if you do it, you're just doing it. So I beat it, just challenge-wise, that's nice. If there were trophies on it, that would that would have been like a cool trophy to have, I guess. But I was like, I beat it with Nikolai with the knife, and I got $41 and an F. And I was like, oh, I just made that up in my head. I thought I was gonna get more money, but I beat the challenge. I made it there. I at least made it to the end, because I would try that a million times as a kid. I just could not get to the end, and I finally did it, and I got my 41 schmeckles. That was a heck of a day. I was like, oh, that was all in my head. I just made that crap up. But love me some RE3. Like I said, it's my favorite one, which is why it hurts so bad that the remake is the remake. And then after that, of course, we have Code Veronica. Code Veronica, I absolutely love. That is like, when I think of the PS2 Resident Evil, even though RE4, of course, I played on there like a billion times, I still think of Code Veronica first, because it was the first one I had for a long time before it came out on PS2. But love me some Code Veronica. I do hope that's the remake we get, and it should be. I've said this a million times. If they're redoing the entire universe and the storyline, it makes sense to go RE4, then RE Code Veronica, and then go 5, because that's the Wesker trilogy. He shows up in 4, he's like just kind of an antagonist on the side when it comes to Code Veronica, and then he's the main villain in 5 where it all ends. So it makes sense to make that his trilogy and build that up. So it has to be Code Veronica. It just makes the most sense to actually do the storyline in that way because of his progression through those games. Obviously, we got initially Code Veronica first. Love that game back in the day. I got the greatest hits, so sadly I didn't have the Devil May Cry demo. I don't care what anybody says. I still respect Steve because of him jumping through a window, dual wielding 2 golden guns, and saving me from the Bandersnatch. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen as a kid. Yeah, we don't have to talk about the airplane. We don't have to talk about that. But him diving through that window was super badass, and I will stand by that to this day. And everything else we don't really have to discuss. And I didn't hate the moment where he shoots, the moment with his dad. Crazy moment. It was actually like a crazy moment. Like, what is he waiting for? And then you get the story, and it's like, oh man, Resident Evil. Like every once in a while, they'll hit you with that hard stuff, and that was a good moment. It was a really good moment. So I still really love Code Veronica. I find it super weird that they didn't make it where you could play that game in first person, because basically the battle mode in that game, you could choose first or third person, and that was the craziest thing ever to me. Of course, I experienced Survivor. I did skip over that. Didn't like it, like most people. Cousin had it. I was like, holy crap, I'm about to experience Resident Evil. And then I experienced it, and I moved on with my life. So Code Veronica, I really love. It's actually one of my favorites. My favorite save room theme is actually from Code Veronica. I think it has the best one personally. That's always been my favorite one. But love that game. I have to bring this up, especially since I mentioned Survivor. Survivor 2, Code Veronica, I actually liked as a kid. And I have to explain this because I have a rare experience, much like the random stuff with the RE2 demo and the weird stuff that I know because of the RE3 strategy guide. I played Code Veronica, or Survivor 2 Code Veronica in the arcade. I played it with my dad in the arcade. And so I have a very different attachment to that. I know if I played it now, like I've seen the retrospectives and like what it's like if you're just naturally playing it, yes, it's kind of horrible. It's just, it's like 100% an arcade game, as where Survivor 1 was clearly like a first-person story game. There is no real story for Survivor 2. That's why it was in the arcade. They wouldn't do that with the first game because it actually is story-driven. The second one is just an arcade game, so it's not, like it's legit not meant to be, well, I shouldn't say it's not meant to be fun, but it's just that experience when you play an arcade game at home. It's very different, unless it's Time Crisis, because that actually had a straight up story, or like House of the Dead. But they were kind of a weird in between where it was like, well, we'll just do Code Veronica and like half do the story and then just throw bosses in there, but also you still move around yourself. Super weird experience. But the controllers were the main weapons that Claire has, like like the main pose, the big dual wielding pose that she always does. It was those guns. The literal gun was the controller. So you would push it forward and back, left and right, and then you would turn it left and right to actually turn left and right so you can start walking around. I had a blast with that because I was like, holy crap, Resident Evil in the arcade. So I have a very unique attachment to that game because I actually played it in the arcade. Every time people talk about it, they didn't have that experience, so I totally understand. But I have like a super soft spot because I actually went to an arcade and just randomly saw Resident Evil in the arcade. So I have that memory for the rest of my life because it was already my favorite. Like Resident Evil's been my favorite franchise ever since I was a kid, since honestly playing the first one. So it was already like that. And then it was just like, dang, that's crazy. So I had to throw that out there. So shout out to Survivor 2. I don't hate it like everybody else. Granted, that could change if I actually played through the whole game on console or something. probably different. So I'll probably just stay away from that. And it's like, just leave that beautiful memory in the past, and then I will never touch that game again unless I can like get super rich and I find the arcade somewhere. And that's about the only way I'll play it again. But had to throw that out there because I have a very unique experience with that one. But moving on, RE4. Game changer. It was crazy. I beat it like 13 effing times. Like, there's not much to say. I played it on GameCube. It was during the Blockbuster days where it was like, hey, you could rent one game for as long as you want. I did that with 3 separate games. Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, really enjoyed that. I don't know why, but the Shark Tale game, I kind of enjoyed it. It was mostly like rhythm based, but for some reason I got the Shark Tale game on GameCube. Actually, I did it with 4 games. The third game was Star Wars Battlefront, and it didn't effing work. That really sucked because I was like, oh, cool, I'll take this to my dad's. I get, a PlayStation game, head over to my dad's, play on the PS2, and it wouldn't effing read the disc, and I was so disappointed. I was like, man, I spent so much time, for anyone who doesn't know this, back in the day when you would put a DVD in certain consoles, you could actually play a demo. If you had the Return of the Jedi DVD, like trilogy DVD back in the day, if you put the Return of the Jedi DVD in an Xbox, you could play a demo of Star Wars Battlefront. It may have been the first one. I don't remember if it was 2 actually, but you would do like the Forest Moon of Endor level, and all I would do is play that demo and just hop on a speeder bike and see how long I could survive before hitting a tree. I wanted to do that so bad, and the demo didn't work. And then, of course, the final game that I rented from Blockbuster was Resident Evil 4. I played the crap out of that game. I still have like the most random memory of being like in my mom's bed and like just facing the TV and playing it, and I'm fighting the Verdugo for the first time. Wild. Well, one of the like the couple of scary moments in OG RE4 were definitely scary. Fighting the I always forget I always remember the effing jewel is like the green, it's the yellow, the eyes. I always forget the name right when I want to say it, and then I'll randomly remember it later. I always do that with those things. But the invisible bugs, every single time I want to say it, I'm like, I remember the jewel, can't remember the No Vista doors, right? Yes, there we go. Got it. Those are scary. Obviously, Regenerators are scary. The Verdugo is scary. Also, being in the maze, fairly scary. Something I also just found out, like, legit, like last week as of this recording. I did not know that some parts of the game you skip over in easy mode. I heard that you actually skip the maze if you play the game on easy. I never knew that in my life. Like, they just cut little parts of the game out. That's crazy to me. Also, another fun fact, I had no idea that in the lava room you could shoot the chains off the dragons to kill them. Didn't know that. Didn't know that for a very, very long time. And I always thought I had to like try to lead them to start the fire and then run back and then like snipe the guy and kill him, because that would stop the fire. Not at any point did I realize, oh, you shoot the chains. You shoot the chains and drop them down. Like it takes like 10 seconds and you're good to go. Never knew that. Never knew that as a kid. Crazy times. But I love that game. Played the crap out of it. Played the crap out of Mercenaries mode. Of course, eventually bought it on PlayStation 2. Had a great time with Assignment Ada in the original, and then played through it again, of course. Also, favorite costume for Ada is that Assignment Ada costume. Always thought that looked super cool, like the combat sort of style. I always thought that was a sick costume. It was actually like legit my favorite look. I hated the fact that that wasn't in the remake. I was like, even if they don't put Assignment Ada in there, please put the costume in there. But sadly they didn't. But really enjoyed that game. And then of course, PS2 version, played through all that, got my PRL 412 laser cannon, really enjoyed that. And then of course, by the time I got it, my cousin had the Wii version at that point. And then I was disappointed because it took me forever to get it. Of course, you play here and there. Finally got it. And it was like, oh, on the Wii version, it moves like twice as fast and it shoots lasers that can kill everybody in the village in like one hit. It's like, what? Like, yeah, it shoots like every enemy on screen just gets hit instantly. It was like, that's amazing. And mine is like super effing slow and kills one person at a time. So that hurt me. That hurt. It took me forever to get that. And then I was like, instantaneously, like it was instantly taken from me, that joy. But still, glad I beat that challenge, went through, got my 5 stars with all the characters and stuff. Love RE4. After that, and I'm gonna do kind of a rapid fire here, so this one is, I'm basically just sitting in front of my house. But after that, RE5. I did not like RE5. RE4 already took it more actiony, but it was like actiony, still horror enough. That's why I love the remake so much. It's even scarier. And I was like, perfect blend. But 5, way too much action. I know how, we're gonna get to 6, but 5 was too much action, and I did not enjoy it. Like, not a single part of it was scary. Like, the whole effing game takes place during the day, except for
The first El Gigante fight, you fight the thing at night, just sitting in an effing turret, and then it's daytime again. I'm like, okay. And then the end of the game, when you fight Wesker, it's like, oh, that doesn't really do much for me. But end of the game, you fight Wesker, and that's about it. Disappointing me. I think I played through the game twice. I played, as Chris, and then after that, I played as Sheva. Really weird thing. It was always a topic, even to this day, the AI. I swear the AI for Chris was better for me than the AI for Sheva. I don't know what it is, but I swear I played through that game, and this was before they were doing updates and patches and all that crap. I'm telling you, I played through that game, and I felt like everybody else, like, man, this AI is kind of trash. And when I played with Sheva, and I played both times, I played the whole game solo. Played with Sheva, and Chris was the AI. I swear it was like night and day. I was so confused. I was like, none of these issues are happening. Like, everything was like super smooth that second playthrough. Like, it felt super weird. I was like, I think they have different AI. Like, I legit was like, I think they did something, and the AI is different for Chris than it is for Sheva. Because I had a completely, like, a much grander experience playing that game the second time through and being like, wow, my AI partner is like not trash this time. Like, it was really weird. That was my exact experience with that. Like, I had the same frustration with the AI, and then when Sheva was the playable character, not a problem in sight. It was super weird, but I always remembered that playing through 5 that second time with her, and like the AI being so amazing with Chris. It was like, what happened? So super weird, but that was my personal experience with that. Also, I hate that section at the end of the game where you're in like the giant room and everybody's like shooting at you, and you have to like go around, pop out of the corner and shoot. And it's like a million people on boxes. And it's like, this is a Gears of War segment, except I can't heal. And it was so difficult to get through that I hated that segment. I thought that was so dumb. I'd probably be a lot better at it today, but when I was younger, I was just like, man, like I don't know if I could be that much better. I mean, it's like you're aiming at a dozen people in a bunch of different elevations and stuff. And it's like, all right, I'm trying to shoot this one dude, and then a bunch of people get hits in on me. I hated that so much. I was like, man, this is like, who thought that this was a good way to make this work? To have this many enemies, they're all at different elevations with different weapons and stuff. And I was like, this is, I hate this segment. But I wasn't the biggest fan of 5. It just didn't really do it for me. I was just like, I'm not a fan of 5. So that's probably the one I played through the least, if I'm being totally honest. Not counting the more modern ones, but when I had free time, I still only played through it like 2 times, and then I was done. But after that, just jumping straight to 6. I like 6 more than 5. I said it, and I'm gonna say it for the rest of my life. I like Resident Evil 6 more than I like Resident Evil 5, and I always will. And the reason for that is, at the very least, I can enjoy the stuff in that game. Even though it's ridiculous, and it definitely is. And there's just, you fight an effing dinosaur dude at one point, and when it got to that point with Leon, I was just like, you know what? We're just at that point where it's just this crazy. I'll accept it. Like, I was already accepting of everything that was weird and just wonky about that game. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And I had a blast. I had a really fun time. I will say Leon's campaign has some of the greatest moments in Resident Evil history. That outbreak moment, like where you're going through the city, phenomenal level. I loved seeing the actual chaos. Has some issues, like a lot of people. I'm not the only person, much like the AI in RE5, getting hit by that effing ambulance out of nowhere is like a universal constant for RE6. Same thing happened to me. I'm playing and we're outside the bar shooting up zombies, and then an effing truck just hits me. I'm like, where did that come from? And then the second time it was like, oh, I hear it now, but when you're first in that chaos, like you don't hear that the first time you play that game. So once again, another very consistent thing within the Resident Evil fandom. I got hit by the truck the first time too. Just out of nowhere, I'm having a blast, and then a truck just hit me. I'm like, what the F are you, what? So I had that experience as well. But I actually love that outbreak level. And then of course everyone dies. I do hate that, or I'm like, they just all die in the bus crash except for me and Helena. Okay, sure. Also kind of hated that they didn't just put Claire in that game, because they made Helena literally just Claire. They gave her a vest and her color was red. I was like, why did they do that? I don't mind the character herself, but I was like, why did they make her look so much like Claire? Even if it was just a vest, but it was like, you gave her red and a vest? It's not a red vest, don't get me wrong. I think it was like her shirt underneath her vest was red, and she had like a almost silver vest or something like that. But I'm like, still, that kind of bugged me a little bit at the time. I was like, but I couldn't get Claire again. Okay, sure. But I still enjoyed that game, and I did love it for the fact that Sherry came back and they were doing something expansive with the lore in that regard. I thought that was cool. Boom, Wesker just blowing loads and he has an illegitimate child. That was crazy. I do want him to come back. I want Jake to come back. I don't care. Like, you put him in there. I want more content. I want more story. So, still enjoyed 6. It was crazy, absolutely. Loved Ada's campaign when that came out. I got it before it was like you could just pick any one. I actually had to unlock it. I actually enjoyed her campaign. She had like the scariest moment when you're running through the ship and like the face is in the wall and coming at you. That actually freaked me out, and I was like, that's like the scariest moment. That's the only, I shouldn't say scariest, the only scary thing in that whole game, because being chased by the Ustanok is like, it's crazy, but it's not scary. So Ada's campaign gave you like the only actual like scary thing that you could really experience in the game, but I enjoyed it. And admittedly, I still like the stories in 6, even though the gameplay can be crazy. The action is great, but it shouldn't be as action-packed. That's the problem with it. But the actual stories, I like Jake and Sherry's campaign. It's unique to listen to them as like the next generation, sort of, because of course they haven't come back in a million years, but they're kind of the next generation. So that's, exciting to go through that experience. And then you have, Leon's campaign is more akin to horror and stuff, but it was interesting kind of going through that mostly because of how his stuff blended in. Like, his was really just some of the segments I really liked. But Chris's campaign, also one of the best stories. Like, everyone loves that story, and it was crazy, Piers dying and stuff like that. Also never played that as Piers, so I never got to do like the crazy lightning moves. I was always like, I'm gonna play this again someday on co-op, and I'll get to play as Piers as he's doing like crazy mutated lightning attacks. But I've yet to do that. I have not played that game in forever. But I like the stories. I thought the stories were pretty cool. I like the interweaving element of it, and finding out like different answers here and there. I will say this, if you introduce that game to someone, I think I played it in the perfect order, because I think I saved Leon for last, and that one kind of gives you the answer to the whole Ada thing for Chris's campaign. So I think, because I did Jake and Sherry's first, because I was like, you know what, I'll just do timeline order. So I did Jake and Sherry's first, and then I did Chris's campaign, and then I did Leon's last, and I think that's the best order to do it. Obviously not counting Ada's campaign, but you definitely can't play hers first. That'll like spoil like almost every other campaign. So I think that's the best order. Jake and Sherry, then Chris and Piers, then Leon and Helena, and then obviously Ada for last. I think is the correct way to do that. Just so the mysteries that might get spoiled are like the smaller things. The Ada thing is like the biggest mystery within the entire game, if I do say so myself. So saving Leon's campaign for last is without a doubt like the best way to handle that. And then you get to play Chris's thing, and then it's like, okay, you kind of understand it as you go on, or even the twist that is like, it's not actually her. It's like, oh, that's kind of crazy to find out during Chris's campaign. But if you play Leon's, it's like, I literally know the entire answer. So don't play Leon before Chris, whatever you do. But I enjoyed that game. Also, it owes its due, its flowers. RE6 has the best mercenaries. Plain and simple. Like, survival mode mercenaries is the better version. Like, I don't know why they don't just make that mercenaries mode where it's just survival instead of the time-based, or do both. I have like, the first video I did when I restarted this series was how mercenaries mode should be the online component, and they should have both versions where you can have the time version like you have, RE remake or RE4 remake, and then you can just have the survival mode that you get from RE6. I don't know why they won't bring that back, but they definitely should. So those are my thoughts on RE6. I skipped over the RE remake, and Zero, technically. I really appreciate Zero. I don't hate it like most people do. The monkeys are pretty crazy though. And having to take the hook shot, yes. If we get a remake, they just gotta switch it up. I don't mind that you drop weapons. I don't think it's as crazy as people always complain about. It's really just the hook shot. The hook shot is literally the only thing that's annoying, because it's like, if you drop everything, unless you leave everything by the train, admittedly. First time through, yeah, you'll probably end up doing that, but after that, the only thing that's still always annoying is gonna be the hook shot. It takes up 2 spaces, and you still have to wait, even if you know you're gonna take it. Even in the second playthrough, it's like you still have to wait to start unlocking all the doors to get to where it even needs to go. And then you still have to go back and get it just to get to the second area and fight the bat and all that stuff. So I get it. I know people don't really like the leeches and stuff. The monkeys are really the main problem. Those monkeys are absolutely insane. But I always enjoyed that game. Of course, appreciation for Rebecca. Shout out to Billy Cohen. Thought he was gonna come back in 5, by the way, because of the Africa tie-in. I remember reading that in Game Informer where they're like, maybe Billy Cohen will come back and he'll be in Africa somehow. I was like, nope, that didn't happen. But I thought that made perfect sense. I was like, yeah, they could do that. They didn't. They did not do that. But I like RE0. RE1 Remake, I think, is the best Resident Evil game, even if it makes no sense with the Rebecca stuff. So if we get a remake, Yeah, like everybody says, that's the one thing they need to fix. Like, just have her be tired or something, anything. Like, she doesn't have to explain anything that happened because it wouldn't make a difference to the rest of the main campaign. And even if she does, it'll just be like, yeah, this crazy stuff happened. And then that's about it. They're trapped anyway. Even if she gave every bit of story element, they'd still be trapped and have to go through the main story. Just have her say a couple things. I'm beat. I'm tired, dude. I gotta lay down. Like, I need a minute. That's it. That's all I gotta do. That's all I gotta do. But really enjoy those games. Absolutely love the RE1 remake. I got that for $20 used, and my mom actually bought it for me. One of the greatest memories I've ever had. That was right after they announced they were no longer making GameCube games, and I was like, holy crap, this is it. Like, there is no opportunity. And it was just one of those rare moments where it was like, she actually bought me an effing game. $20. Like, you asked for a candy bar and it was no all the time. And for some reason that day, she said yes to a $20 game. Had the manual and everything. It was like pristine condition used. And I was so effing happy. I could not believe it. And I had a blast. So love the RE remake. I think it's literally the best Resident Evil game. But moving on to reboots and stuff, I'll quickly go Revelations. Played it when it came out on PS3. Really enjoyed that game. One day I'll play it again because I forgot to go to the pool. When you empty out the pool, it's like you can go back there later. I never did it. I totally forgot. One day I'll find that out. I don't want to look it up myself. Revelations 2. Love that game. I think it's better than the first one. A lot of people don't feel that way. I think 2 is actually really, really good. I did not do the episodic thing. I bought it when it all came out. Had a horrible experience because I bought it on PC. So that was a horrible experience day one. But eventually it all worked itself out. Love that game. Still waiting for them to continue it. Like, what the F? Like, they should be rolling that into the main storyline. At some point, we should have been at it, honestly. But absolutely enjoyed those games. Love the second one more than the first, honestly. But 7 and 8, get into our reboots. Really love 7. I swear, like a lot of people, I thought Ada was the person on the phone. When that first trailer came out, that's how I knew it was Resident Evil. I actually thought it was Ada. And then it was Resident Evil, but it was not Ada at all. And I was like, oh, I swear that sounded like Ada. That sounded just like her to me in that original RE7 trailer. But loved RE7, loved playing the crazy demo. You can actually go on my YouTube channel years and years back. I think I just live streamed off of my PlayStation probably to do that. But you can check that out where I'm just trying to figure out like what the F is going on with this weird demo. So you can watch that if you like. But I enjoyed RE7, definitely weird Chris face, but I enjoyed that. I thought it was really crazy, a fun experience. I played through it twice. Also, I chose Zoe. I didn't choose Mia. Like everybody's like, oh, I came for my wife. I'm sorry, my wife cut off my hand and was stabbing the shit out of me. I chose the lady that helped me. And then she died like instantaneously. So that was super crazy. Another fun fact that you probably don't know from Resident Evil, because a lot of people apparently were like, well, I'm saving my wife. If you don't save her, she becomes a boss fight. So there's a little thing for you. She actually becomes a boss fight and you have to fight her and you kill her with a crowbar. And also if you go through like the whole ship portion, you play as Ethan. Like if you know, it's actually really weird how they do it where like if you choose Mia or if you choose Zoe, she like basically, you know, crystallizes or whatever, and then she's gone. And so then you wake up on the boat and you're playing as Ethan again. But I always thought that was so interesting where it was like, oh, the boat section was kind of supposed to be Mia's entire section. But for me, it wasn't her section until the flashback. Like I was still Ethan the whole time. And then when the flashback hits, that's when I was playing as Mia. And I was like, when I saw other people do it and Ethan's like knocked unconscious and he crystallizes or whatever, I was like, oh, that's actually like a totally different, like mentally speaking, it's a different experience. Like you're with a totally different character for a giant chunk of the game. And I wasn't. I only had her during the flashback, which the flashback is more of the ship than it is, you know, the derelict version. But still, I didn't have any of that playing through the game. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't have that before. So it was funny finding all that out and then like playing through it the second time and being like, oh, that's quite different. That's interesting. So enjoyed 7, loved the DLC for that. When 8 came out, I had a blast with that as well. So I really enjoyed that. Both of those I have fully recorded, so you can watch all of that. RE2 remake, God tier. Absolutely loved it. Still wish the campaigns were slightly different. Wish Leon and Claire talked way more than they did. I hate the fact that they didn't plan on doing an A-B scenario. For anyone that didn't know that, the B scenario was kind of just slapped on. They never actually planned to do that originally. That's crazy to me, but I would still give it like a 9 out of 10. All things considered, still a 9 out of 10. Love all the costumes, filters, all that stuff. And then RE3 remake is what it is. I will not be discussing it at this point, but I will simply say they didn't even give us more than 2 costumes. I hate that. RE4 Remake, absolute god tier. I think it's better than the original game. Cannot wait for Resident Evil 9. Would love to know your thoughts on this one. I've been sitting in my car probably like the last 15 minutes of this video, but I wanted to talk all things Resident Evil. Love Resident Evil. Also, if you have a chance and you have RE4, I know it's expensive, it's overpriced even, but I'm telling you, PSVR 2, RE4 was a life changer. I'd never played through a full game in VR. You know, you play it here and there, you get your moments. Playing that was insane. I'd experienced RE7 in VR a little bit because I actually, they came to Michigan, they were in Ann Arbor. I went to the little tour thing they did. Also one of those happy/devastating moments. They couldn't sell anything, so I couldn't buy the liquor plush that had like the 2-inch long tongue. I was so upset. I was like, yeah, we don't have the license to sell here. I was devastated. Like I just can't buy it. Painful. But I experienced that, and then years later, RE4 PSVR 2, you gotta try it. You have to, it is so good. It is genuinely so good. You can also watch that experience. Everything from 7 onward, you can watch me play literally the entire game and all the DLC for every Resident Evil. So if you guys are interested in that, you can check out my experience with all the RE games. At some point, I will be doing the old games. I haven't done it, but I always plan on just going through like the whole effing franchise all over again. But as of now, from 7 onward, you can watch me experience all of the games. So thank you guys for checking this one out. I know this was a long one, but I didn't want to cut this one short just because I got home way faster than I thought. Michigan weather, it's been crazy lately, but it was kind of smooth sailing today. But I wanted to do a full one and go through my love for Resident Evil. So if you guys have any comments, good, bad, happy, sad, when it comes to Resident Evil, the disappointing moments, because we've had them, we've had quite a few. But I want to know all your thoughts, all your memories, even hopes going forward for Resident Evil. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.